even a matter of that could have been better. It was like, I'm not playing with you. So Cassowary, ping! Wait, they've gone. Oh God. Anyway, hi, it's Paulie here. Yay. Sharing some good games this little session. I backed this out of interest when it turned up on Kickstarter, and I'm so glad I did. MASHED. This is a role-playing game of M.A.S.H. Now you've all, I hope, seen the TV series, good old M.A.S.H. Forrest and Seven. This is inspired and tips its hat to that, while being a very historical game of running a character that's in a M.A.S.H. unit in Korea during the Korean War. This runs off the Apocalypse engine. So, the Apocalypse engine is it's 2d6 run. It's oddly formalized, but it kind of runs quite well. What the Apocalypse engine does is it gives you set moves that characters can do, and your role play kind of eventually boils down to the fact that you're trying a specific type of move, and that role play gives you bonuses to the dice rolls. And that move might be, I'm trying to bamboozle this person, I'm trying to get out of this fight alive, I'm trying to talk this guy, into giving me the map, or what have you. So, MASHED. This is a beautiful piece of work. Now, they're quite clear that this is running off real history. However, they're perfectly aware that you're going to take so many of your cues from M.A.S.H. It sounds restricted, it's not, it's a very beautiful game. So, to start off with, you're generating characters that are suitable for that M.A.S.H. Now, you pick a rank for yourself. Do you want to be an enlisted man? Do you want to be a sergeant? Are you going to be an officer, and so on? And it gives you the kind of jobs that are appropriate within those ranks. Your characteristic spread is actually, you've only really got 4 characteristics. It's like, it bucks things up into skill and toughness and, just the things that are important for this kind of game. Your rank gives you a spread of points you can put into those specific spreads. The enlisted men tend to be more kind of generalist, so they've got a fair spread of points. The higher in rank you get, the more you tend to have a lot of concentration in a couple of things, and sometimes you're down negative in others, and so on. It's sort of an interesting choice. So, enlisted men can be things like, they're the grunts that run the place. Enlisted as privates through to corporal and, what do the Americans call it? PFC. You don't have lance corporals. So, you want to be Radar O'Reilly, the company clerk, that kind of position, that's fine. You want to be Corporal Klinger, General Grunt at Large, that sort of thing, or, one of the guys. But, of course, they're filling you in on the actual jobs that are actually done here. So, yeah, there are motor pool people, there are chemical and security people, there are people who actually are medical corps assistants who sort of do a lot of the mechanical running of a hospital. Once you start getting into these sergeant kind of roles, these can be people who are involved with being ambulance drivers, motor pools, medical corpsmen. There are also medical corpsmen types who work within the M.A.S.H. as preppers for patients. They help with triage, they bring people in, they prepare patients. Or they can be specialised. So some of these people are specialised in diagnosis and radiology. Some of them are people that help out with post-operation treatment. Once you get into the commission ranks, that's where your nurses come in, who are incredibly vitally important when we get into some of the guts of this system. Nurses are kind of split into surgical nurses who assist surgeons. Those are a little bit kind of rare on the ground. There are general nurses who do patient aftercare and patient care and deal with some diagnosis and so on. There are also some nurse specialists who become nurse anaesthetists. Anaesthetists are very important in this. There are other diagnostic people that are present. There are actual doctors in a M.A.S.H., not surgeons, doctors. These guys specialised more in dealing with sort of pharmacological things. They're more people who treat diseases. They're not cutters, they're not surgeons. There are dentists, there are radiologists, all of which, you know, help. And then of course you get the surgeons. There are cutters, and they're going to do actual surgery. Some of those can be specialised as a thoracic surgeon. This is it. You get little specialisation things. You can also get chief nurses. They're regular army people who tend to have sort of a lot of admin skills and so on. So you pick rank and you pick that role. Each role has its playbook. These playbooks give you a little rundown on who you are and what you do, what your authorities are, where you kind of are in the chain of command, and it gives you a series of moves that your character can do. You pick a role for yourself. This is kind of a personality for you. You could be a clown, you could be a Casanova, you could be a bully, you could be the stickler for rules, you could be the operator that's always out there kind of, you know, trying to make a buck, or really good at scrounging, or really good at kind of, you know, again, the radar O'Reilly thing, making a deal, making a deal, making a deal. You can be all these sorts of different things, and they give you moves. But these can change. More on that later. So, you've got these tools to make a MASH. It gives you a ton of background, both on the war and on MASHes and how they operate, how patients come in, so that you can get this whole thing going. Lots of quotes from people's actual memoirs and so on. So, if you've watched the TV show, what was really good about it was that it examined a lot of moral questions and a lot of difficult situations. This game from the outset, right from the very first pages, brings us in. It says diverse characters. What if you're gay? What if you are, you know, trans, or, you know, in the way of the time, a cross-dresser? Or what if you are, you know, what if you're not white? Because this is the 50s, and these things, it says there's kind of got to be a bit of an agreement, and it shows you how to do, like, figure this out with characters, but you're going to sort of confront these things in play. There's a lot of confrontational play. You're going to do a story about what happens when these things become important. What's your African American character going to do when some bigot comes in and they need treatment, and it's your job to treat them, but they're treating you badly. How do you relate? So there's actually a lot of really interesting role-playing possibilities in this. Now, things that happen in this, obviously there's going to be medical stuff, but stress is very important. Again, if you watch the original show, kind of the stress is sort of interesting. They all come to pieces because, you know, they're just seeing horrible things and horrible things happening. There's a really nice stress system in this. You gain stress from doing things. Being in long OR sessions gets you stress. The longer it goes, the more stress that you accumulate. Stress also happens from just things going wrong. From if you make mistakes in surgery and you get called on it, or if you don't get called on it and you discover it, more stress. Personal things. Things going wrong at home that you can't affect. Things just like the fact that it's the same goddamn food every day and you're starting to lose it. Wonderful system for basically gathering this stress. You can do things to relieve the stress. The stress starts to change the way that you function. It starts to actually affect you. But you can do things to try and whittle it down. Some of that depends on your role. If I'm a comedian, I've got to start doing pranks and practical jokes, and that will wear this down. If I'm the stickler, then that's it. My stress relief is I'm going to go out and I'm going to insist that they paint all the rocks white, and I'm going to start, you know, yelling at people for not being in uniform or whatever. You know, the operator's going to start trying to do a deal. The sky pilot's going to run around and start, you know, trying to obsessively do something to help orphans, or, you know, these things are going to happen. But if it tops out, things happen. You start getting conditions. So you've got a whole list of things that you start delving into. Your character may start getting like alcoholism, or you may start having other kind of behavioural problems, short temper. You're getting, you know, PTSD style things. You can't sleep, you can't eat. All these things that start really doing bad things, and stuff that's got some great role-playing possibilities there. You can also kill off your stress track by changing roles. So suddenly, I'm not the Casanova again. I've repented. I've become a real sky pilot. I'm going to. I've gone all godly, or I'm switching from a Casanova to, you know, comedian, the clown. You know, you can. So that's another way of doing things. Really, really nice stress system at its core here. It's got a medical system, and it's really kind of interesting as you've got the general play of the scenarios, those moral questions, those things, all these sort of aims and goals and dealing with stress, making the role play, but there's this background of medical stuff coming in, and the umpire's going to hit you with it. There's a series of hidden game mechanics that the players just don't see that creates the medical background environment that you're living in. Casualties coming in, horrible things happening. When you get casualties, there's like, yes, the surgeons have to treat things. They've got this lovely sheets and it's got bodies come in. So, a human being has a series of essential organs: brain, heart, lungs, kidneys, liver. These are life-threatening. If there's damage to these, that's important. There are also damage that you can track to limbs and extremities and specialised things such as eyes, etc. There's an overall clock running for each character. When triage happens, someone goes out and has to essentially try and diagnose these clocks. Who needs treatment more rapidly? Because some of the clocks have more boxes in them than others. So the ones with less boxes, they're going to need treatment more quickly. But now you start getting these hard decisions because everything's got a damage track. The surgeons do activities which lower the damage track. When something gets down to like only 2 damage on it, it's stabilised. There's more to go to fix it, but it's stable. You want to obviously stabilise life-threatening injuries first. This guy's got a head injury, but he's also got, damage to his lungs and aorta. Fantastic. Right, we've got to get that down. But meanwhile, the life box is kind of ticking away. So, although this guy's got horrible injuries to his legs or something, that's not life injuries. So you've got to actually try and save his life. So you start getting to hard kind of moments where, okay, stabilise this guy, I've worked to stabilise his life, but we've had to let the legs go. Or, this guy's lost an arm or whatever. Or sometimes you're looking at the fact that you've got patients stacked up and it's like their clocks are running out. I've got to finish with this guy now, otherwise there's no time to save this patient, and there may not be time to save the patient after. Do you just say, well, I can't fix what this guy's got, I've got to amputate because I've got to make... So there's some really hard kind of moral decisions going on here. Now, it's not all about the surgeons. The anaesthetist is playing a role, and their skill roles and their choices are able to cover errors that happen on the roles made by the surgeons. The surgical assistant nurse is also making roles, and when the surgeon essentially screws up roles or whatever, she can cover those and remove the consequences because she's assisting. She can also do things that help walk that clock back so that you're not sort of so much on this roller coaster ride to doom. Correct triage at the first. Players who've decided to play sort of diagnostic things like radiologists and so on, they're playing a role. When someone comes in and it's a difficult case but there's been someone diagnostically involved, that really helps out. So there's this whole teamwork thing happening. Spelling people, where that fatigue and stress is building up, and so, all right, well, we've got this many people in and we've got 4 surgeons working. All right, your character's getting overstressed, you go off and you get some sleep and try and walk that back, because now you're getting a negative on your rolls, okay? And we'll hope that we can somehow handle the patient load. Really clever medical management. I've never seen anything done quite like it. A sizable chunk of this book, it runs down the war, what happens and what sort of things are happening, what you can expect to happen with your MASH. When a MASH bugs out and moves, that's kind of a period where everyone's characters kind of update. Experience comes in and things can change and you can tick boxes and you might get promotions and all these sorts of things. You can retire characters out. If you go completely goony hoo hoo gaga, yeah, you get Section 8'd out. If you go completely troppo. Now, the person running the game, by the way, is the CO. So the the Colonel Potter or Henry Blake guy is actually an NPC that is run by the Games Master, and they're statted, they've got things, they're a character that's there, and you can try and persuade them and bring them in and do stuff with it, but they are actually a character. If people want, they can get their guys promoted upwards, and you can you can take over the game. You can say, all right, well, my guy's being promoted now to Lieutenant Colonel, so I'm going to run the game. My character is now the NPC. There's some really interesting little side bits in this, like history. You get history with other characters, and the role that you're playing gives you some kind of history as well. So the rule sticklers are always going to be eternally at war with the camp comedians and so on. So cooperating between those kind of groups is hard because you get negatives to do it because you hate each other's guts. This is a really interesting piece of work. It's good. It's got action, you know, you can be sent up the line, you know, you've got actual, but it's not about shooting and killing and maiming and whatever. This is a role-playing game where there's resource management, which is really well done. Cooperative resource management of your physical skills and resources. You've got that amazing medical system which gives these kind of interesting trauma games that are going to be a background to some personality playing of all these wonderful personas that you've made, and the stress that has to be removed, which is kicking you into doing roleplay to do it. The moral aspect is pressed again and again and again to do kind of challenging play. Moral decisions about treatment, moral decisions about people coming in, people with attitudes that you don't agree with. Confronting racism, confronting sexism, confronting nationalism. Confronting, you know, jingoistic, you know, political bullshit. Sources of stress include being subjected to things like propaganda and so on, and then dealing with, you know, that, you know, bullshit red, white and bluism and all this kind of thing. It's a really interesting piece of work. It's gone completely under the radar for most people. It's one of those ones I picked it up and I just wanted to play it. I sure as hell am now going to go back through all of my M.A.S.H collection and rewatch them because, you know, they're brilliant. M.A.S.H, by the way, is a show that's aged really well. When you look at its wonderful anti-authoritarian current, but also looking at it dealing with questions of sexism and racism and so on, they are doing very well with the tools that they had at the time. It's a nice piece of work, and the fact that someone wants to do a role-playing game that brings that to the fore is brilliant. This is an unusual game. This was a very interesting and a very brave choice. I am really pleased that it's been done so well. Spectacular piece of work, guys. Take a look at M.A.S.H. I'll give you the links. Anyway, cheers! I hope that one excites some interest. If you like the videos, subscribe. Yay! Find me on Patreon. Like. Whee! They took a day to x-ray me, and now I'm lying in Ward 3. I received a broken knee. The ambulance ran over me. Anyway,